it can kind of spread this gloomy defeatism. Like, you go around and you talk about all these things, and you leave people with the impression that, wow, I just listened to this person talk about all these impressive things for an hour. I think I want to go throw myself off the bridge instead of actually doing something about it, because it just seems also hopeless. These forces seem really entrenched, and there's almost nothing that I can do as an individual about any of these things. And one of the, I'd say, main reasons that I wrote the book, if not the main reason, was to convey what I think has been, at least to me, the most profound lesson that I've learned over the last years from working with Edward Snowden and from working on these materials. It's a lesson that will, I'm certain, profoundly influence how I think about the world for the rest of my life. Which is, Edward Snowden was a 29-year-old who grew up in essential poverty. His father spent 30 years in the Coast Guard. He was, I'd say, lower middle class to poor. He was a high school dropout. He was completely obscure. He had no position or power or prestige of any kind. He was an obscure employee of a massive global corporation, Booz Allen and Hamilton. And yet, through nothing more than a pure act of conscience, a choice to be fearless in the face of injustice, Edward Snowden literally changed the world, acting right. There are all kinds of other examples. I mean, the reason that's so vivid to me is because I watched that firsthand and was infected by his courage myself, and I watched other people, including the newspaper with which I was working at, The Guardian, become infected by that courage in a way that I had never seen them or other similar-sized media outlets be driven by before, and all other kinds of people, including whistleblowers who right this very moment are being inspired to follow his example. And that courage was this ripple effect that I got to witness firsthand. But there's all kinds of examples of similarly powerless and obscure people triggering massive global change, whether it's someone like Rosa Parks refusing to go and sit at the back of the bus, or a Tunisian street vendor who sets himself on fire and triggers this democratic revolution that unseats the most entrenched tyrants that the world has ever known. And the thing that I think is so important to realize is that all of this should be a permanent antidote to the temptation of defeatism, to giving in, to succumbing to the idea that we are too powerless to ever change any of these things. The lesson from all of this, is that governments want us to be in that state of defeatism. It's a form of learned helplessness, to tell us that we're simply too weak, that we can never stand up to these powerful forces. And the lesson from all of this is that any kind of human injustice, or human institution, or human structure, no matter how formidable and entrenched it may seem, can always be torn down and destroyed and replaced by other human beings. And every single one of us, every single individual really does have within us, and it can seem trite, but the evidence is so overwhelming that it's true. We all have within us, if we just summon the right will and unleash our passion and give away our fears, we all have the ability to do what Edward Snowden and so many other individuals without power have done, which is to stand up to injustice and to sacrifice on behalf of fighting against it, and literally to change the world. So on that note, I really thank you all so much.